All right, Nick, let's talk about the Ole Miss Rebels. There's been some excellent recruiting going on this past offseason, but Nick, recruiting is not what we're going to talk about today. There's a big time transfer that Ole Miss has just gotten. I think the Rebels are going to love this pickup.
Might agree with you 100%. Credit to Lane Kiffin and company for pulling off. But before we look to the future in this new edition, let's pause for a second and look back at Ole Miss history. And I got an interesting question for you Ole Miss Rebs fans to answer in the comment section below. Who is the greatest running back, in your opinion, in Ole Miss Rebels history? There's a lot of interesting names to potentially put at the top of the list, but we're really curious what you have to say. So give us the greatest Ole Miss Rebels running back in team history in the comment section below. But all right, Miles, what you got with this big time transfer news out of Oxford?
All right, Nick, the Rebels have been trying to have a little bit of a defensive transformation, but they have kind of made a lot of moves this offseason to go there. But finally, they have gotten the final piece to their defensive back team in a guy in Jaden Kennedy from Tulane, a truly special corner. And I'm going to get into the article right now. All right, Nick. Lane Kiffin told reporters during spring practice that his Ole Miss football team required defensive reinforcements in order to adjust to a new defensive system under new coordinator Pete Golding. The Rebels have backed those words with action by adding their fifth defender of the spring when Tulane transfer corner Jaden Kennedy announced his intent to play for Ole Miss on Thursday night. Kennedy, listed as 5'11", 180 pounds, emerged as a key figure on the defense for the Green Wave right from his arrival as a true freshman. He served at Tulane's nickel cornerback in 2021 and then earned a starting nod at cornerback last season. Nick, this guy seems like a perfect fit for the Rebels. He looks very strong already, and I have even better news because people might be asking the question, Nick, okay, last year, he suffered a little bit of injury. There are questions whether he'll be ready, but Kennedy has assured everybody, and according to On3 as well, that he will be ready for week 1 of this season. So even more good news, a really high tier player when he is back healthy. I think he's going to add a lot to this Rebels defense. But Nick, nonetheless, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this signing for the Rebels.
So Kennedy's a really awesome guy, and the fact that Ole Miss was able to bring him into the program, I think, is an absolute steal. This is a guy who had an interception against Spencer Rattler, now current University of South Carolina quarterback, in his second career collegiate snap. Would go on to be freshman All-American his first year, obviously, as a freshman, and he continued to really work hard and grind. That's something that really jumped out at me. According to Pro Football Network, they did a really good expose, as even after getting that award as a 19-year-old kid, right? I was a 19-year-old kid once. Trust me, if I'd gotten that kind of award, I would have had a lot of, relaxing, kick my feet up, kind of maybe get a big head or something like that, not put in the time and effort. We all probably were, right? 19, a little immature. This is a guy that put in extra effort, grinded extra hard when he was going through it. So Pro Football Network noted that in his offseason, in the summer, again, after being a freshman All-American, he goes and trains with one of the top defensive back coaches in the country, Chad Wilson. And listen to the names that Chad Wilson has coached. You're looking at Dallas Cowboy cornerback Trayvon Diggs. You're looking at Pittsburgh Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and Denver Broncos cornerback Patrick Surtain II. What's something very interesting about all three of those names, Mize? They're all Alabama defensive backs. Who is now the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss? Former Alabama defensive coordinator Pete Golding. There's an interesting connection there that looks to me like Kennedy is going to be a perfect fit for what Alabama, or now Ole Miss defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, loves to get out of his defensive backs. I think this is going to be one of those situations where Kennedy, if he's healthy, and all reports, like you said, indicate that he will slide right into a key role in this defensive backfield and be a big-time playmaker for the Ole Miss Rebs very early on, probably day one, snap one, 2023 campaign for this football team. I think it's a massive move by Lane Kiffin and company.
Yeah, Nick, I think this guy is going to move up the depth chart, but I think he also has a perfect attitude to do as such because he's kind of very underrated coming out of high school. Didn't have a lot of big time offers. I think he was committed to like Howard at one point, decommits from Howard, goes to Tulane, plays at Tulane, shows out, and then finally makes it to the big time SEC football, comes over to the Ole Miss Rebels now where he feels like he is going to be at home. I think this guy is going to fit in perfectly with the Rebels, and that is exactly what they're looking for, Nick. They talk about it. They want to rebuild this defense. Golding, a really highly touted defensive coordinator, needs a lot of reinforcements for some of the schemes they are. And like you said, this guy seems exactly up his alley. He seems like the ideal style of player for Golding to use. I think this is a really great hire and sign not hire Nick pick up from the transfer portal for the Rebels, because I think a lot of people look at this guy and the injury and they kind of overlooked his talent. So I think the Rebels kind of got themselves a little bit of a steal here in Kennedy out of 20.